Good Lord, what is up, YouTube? How y'all doing out there? Hey, I'm Mike. This is my channel, Solid State Alchemy, and today I'm going to talk to you about what I think might be the last quad-core CPU that AMD ever releases. Now, you're going to say, Mike, they've already released a quad-core CPU since this was released, and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. And you're wrong because I'm old, and I still call the CPUs released by AMD that have integrated graphics APUs, because that's what they called them for a super long time. I don't care if it's a Ryzen CPU. If it's got integrated Vega graphics, to me, it's an APU. So, okay, a couple of caveats. Yeah, this is probably, at least I think it's probably the last 4-core CPU with no hyper-threading and no integrated graphics that AMD is ever going to release. And it's the Ryzen 3 2300X. And it's weird because it's OEM only or system integrator only, so you can only get this through like iBuyPower or CyberPower pre-built. It only comes in pre-built machines. So I found one. They go for like somewhere between $50, $60, $80 on eBay pretty commonly. I got myself one, and I put it through a bunch of benchmarks. You may recognize this cooler and this motherboard from my previous video where I talked about going from a release day B450 BIOS to present day, January of 2020. It's February now, but a present day B450 BIOS, and what that means for the Ryzen 2000 series processors. And I did all that testing and all those delta percentages off of this chip, the Ryzen 3 2300X. And I'm fairly certain that those results and those percentage deltas will hold up across the majority of the Ryzen line. What's interesting is that, you know, the vast majority of my progress or the improvements in performance on the BIOS side happened in what we call, you know, what's known as productivity workloads. So stuff like video and image rendering and you know, encoding and image editing, stuff like that, as opposed to gaming. And that held up again when I took the 2020 BIOS and I overclocked this chip. I was able to get this chip stable at 4175 megahertz, so 4.175 gigahertz. It has a boost frequency of 4 gigahertz. It doesn't hit that very often. Most of the time it hangs out at 3970. It will occasionally boost up on the new 2020 BIOS. It would occasionally boost up to 4100 megahertz, but it was for just a split second, very, very quick, and it would be back down to like 3970, 3990 range. Most of the time at 3970, which, you know, that's 30 megahertz off its stated boost clock. Even with the brand new BIOS, it still would hang out there most times. And now it did hit 4 gigahertz much, much, much more often than it did with the original Day Zero BIOS for this B50 motherboard. But again, I was able to get an additional 175 megahertz at 1.34 volts, which I feel is reasonable. That's a little bit higher than I wanted to take it. You know, I've seen some rumblings here around Reddit and some other places about, you know, what are safe voltages for Ryzen 2 and Zen 2, the Ryzen 3000 series chips. People having failures at 1.35 and higher. And that's where, you know, I did 3 series of tests. I did Day Zero BIOS, I did present day BIOS, and then I did present day, and well, 4 actually. Present day BIOS manual overclocked by myself, and then present day BIOS with the Precision Boost Overdrive enabled. And what I'll tell you on this chip in particular, I don't know about any of the other Ryzen 2 chips with PBO enabled. I haven't tested those. But on this particular chip, PBO was no better than default. It was within 0.5% or less for all the results. But it hammered, absolutely hammered this chip with 1.36 and 1.37 volts for V-core, which I feel is way, way, way too high. The temps were under control. The temps weren't the issue, but I don't feel that for the 12 nanometer and definitely for the 7 nanometer that those are safe everyday voltages. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just have a feeling based on some things I've read and some user experiences out there that 1.35 and below is better, or is safer. And so I was at 1.34, 4175, and let's talk about percentage gain, right? Hopefully I'll have some numbers up here. That's a big pain in the butt, but I'll get them up on the screen. So Cinebench R15, we got a between 2020 BIOS and 2020 BIOS OC. That's what I'm going to go over. I'll do a couple of comparos with the day zero versus present day and OC, right? So overclocked on the most recent BIOS, I was able to gain 40 points on Cinebench R15, and that's a total percentage gain of 6.5%, 6.4%. That's pretty good. That's, again, testing methodology is 3 runs back to back. Take the average of the 3. This is my cooler. This is the GPU. This is a GTX 980 Ti Zotac Amp Extreme Edition. For Cinebench R20, we got a delta of 60 points. And that's a total gain of 4%, 3.92. So basically 4% with the overclock, the 4175 overclock. Asus Realbench, total system score went up 2,564 points. That's for 3.3% over the default settings on the 2020 BIOS. The biggest gain we saw on that benchmark was the heavy multi-threading, 7.6% gain, and the encoding saw a huge gain with the frequency bump up by 6%, almost 6.1%. PC Mark 10, again, I still need to do my homework and figure out what exactly is in each of these subtasks in PC Mark 10. But basically saw a 3% to almost 4% increase across the board with the frequency bump over the default settings with the 2020 BIOS. Decent. And then, yeah, the gaming benchmarks are just, it's a wash. There's no, I don't know what's going on. I went back and I retested everything with low settings, so I would try to run out of GPU less, but evidently I just cannot get a GTX 980 Ti cannot be fed or cannot be underfed by a Ryzen 3 2300. That seems crazy to me that a 4-core CPU would not bottleneck this GPU, but this little bad boy at 41, even at stock BIOS settings, could keep up with a 980 Ti. It's pretty impressive to me. Yeah, so it didn't matter if I took this down to, if I took all the game settings like all the way down to low settings and benchmarked those that way, the frame rates were almost identical. Just a couple of outliers. Minimum frames in Rainbow Six Siege were up by 11%, which is pretty solid deal there. Now I can't go back and compare the gaming data for the day zero BIOS because I ran all of those games game benchmarks with ultra high detail settings on the graphical quality, so it's not an apples to apples comparison. But I will backtrack now and let's compare 2020 overclocked versus 2018 just straight out of the gate, right? Day zero, no overclocks versus 2020 BIOS overclocked. Cinebench R15 got a 13.5% increase. So if you have a Ryzen 2300X, Ryzen 3 2300X on a day zero BIOS, and it's on a chip, and it's on a board that can overclock it. I think some of the AB350 boards that come in CyberPower computers may not be capable of overclocking this chip. But if you've got one, or you get your hands on one for cheap, and you slap it on a B450 board, you can get, in your productivity tasks, you can get a substantial increase if you're on one of those older BIOSes, right? 13.5%, 10% increase on Cinebench R20. It's a 144 point delta between overclocked on today's BIOS versus 2 years ago BIOS. Asus Realbench, man, some crazy, like 17,000 point jump in image editing with the overclock versus the old BIOS. 13 percentage point increase, double digit percentage point increase. The PC Mark scores go up again almost by double, because we got about 3% with the BIOS reflash, and then we got another 3% and change by overclocking. So we're in the realm of like 6 to 7%. Looks like the productivity benchmark is the overall winner with 10% increase over the original BIOS there. And again, I can't go into the games because it's not an apples to apples comparison. But what I will say is that, there is a YouTube channel out there that tries to make it sound like quad-core gaming is dead. I just don't think that's true. Not only did I benchmark these games, I've been playing this on my test bench all week. I played a bunch of other games that I don't have benchmarks for that ran fantastically. Outer Worlds, no issues with this, overclocked. I didn't play Outer Worlds on any of the other BIOS settings. I only played it on the overclock once I got the overclocks table. Dirt Rally, fun game, love that game, no issues. What else did I play? There were several games that smooth as silk. The experience is fine. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just a wizard. I don't know. Maybe I'm an alchemist. But I was able to take what a lot of people think is lead, and it seemed like gaming gold to me. And on that bombshell. So again, I'm Mike. If you like this content, like and subscribe to my channel, Solid State Alchemy. And this could be Ryzen, AMD's last 4-core Ryzen chip that doesn't have integrated graphics, which would be kind of like the end of an era. Yeah, Ryzen 3 2300X. I wonder why they decided it was system integrators only. It seemed like a chip that could have been brought to market at a reasonable price tag. Maybe they didn't want to undercut the Athlon. I don't know. But yeah, so that's just all idle speculation. So I'm pretty much out of material now, guys. I hope you like the lights. I hope I look sufficiently less yellowed and just more my regular pasty, ashy wintertime pale. But I got more videos coming. I got more content coming. Hopefully you like this. If you don't, I'm probably not going to change, so move along. Anyway, yeah, that's it for today. I got a video coming out tomorrow. It's our Sunday Tech Talk. We're going to talk about delitting and overclocking. Should be a good time. All right, I'm out.